Time for another board game review, and this time we have the game Sonora. This was sent to me by Pandasaurus Games, and it's designed by Rob Newton. In Sonora, players flick wooden discs onto a game board representative of the different vibrant landscapes across the Sonoran sands. Each area encompasses a different unique game, so skillful aim is required to play in the region of a player's choosing. But watch out for other players eager to bump discs to score points for themselves. Let me show. Oh, hello, Sophie. Let me show you how to play. So in Sonora, this game board here is separated into 4 zones, corresponding to 4 different scoring sections on your scoring sheet. Each zone slash scoring section is identified by a different animal icon. We've got the Cliff Dweller Ruins, the Creek Bed, the Canyon, and the Mud Cracks. I will go through each of these later. Sonora is played over a fixed number of rounds. At the end of the final round, you count up your scores and determine the winner. So in the first phase, the flick phase, each player takes turns flicking discs onto the board. It's a total of 3 turns per round. Each player flicks 2 discs on their first and second turn, and 1 disc on their final turn. So let's say I go like that. And I'll do another one like that. Now, the second player, let's pretend I'm over there. They go from that corner. Maybe they try to hit this one. Okay. Third player goes from here. And goes from here. Obviously, you would do a little more precise flicking than this, but let's say we go like that. Go like that. And so you keep going until all the discs, I'm just going to do them from here, even though you're supposed to do them from different corners, just to kind of show you what a board might look like at the end. Oop, that one flicked out. I'll explain what happens with that later. Okay. God damn it. Once a disc is flicked, it remains on the board for the rest of the round, and you only score it during the right phase. If any disc lands inside the bullseye, that owner immediately removes it from the board and places it on their sheet in the scoring section of their choice. So they can go, I want to put it here. And they can score that later. If you flick your disc off the board like I showed you before, those discs are disqualified and will not score. If you knock another player's disc off the board, they get to reflick it from their launch corner. If you have a reflick bonus, which I'll get into later, you can choose to take a disc, return it, and reflick it again. Now, once all the discs are on the board, then it's time for the right phase. So first off, you can use swap bonuses if you have any. You can use 1 or more to swap positions of your discs on the board. So I could be like, actually, I want this one. Oops. Well, you're not supposed to do that. So I could be like, I'm going to swap this one with this one. Once everyone's done with that, then we look at the Cliff Dweller region. So if we look at the Cliff Dwellers here, purple player has 6 points, green has 7, yellow has 5, blue has 1. That means green player gets to go first. And each player in order will fill out the Cliff Dweller Ruins. I'll explain that in a second. Then, after that, each player can simultaneously start scoring the other discs on the board. Depending on which area your disc is in, that's how you'll score it on your scoring sheet. Or if it's touching a multiplier circle, like this one here. Then, even though it's in this zone, it's actually going to represent this section, because it's matching the matching animal, and it's a ×2 bonus. If a disc is between 2 zones like this, you can choose which one you want to assign it to. However, if it's mainly on this zone, it has to be that zone. If multiple discs touch the multiplier, they both get it. And if it's touching the multiplier, you have to use it. You can't be like, I want to do this zone. You got to do whatever your disc is touching. So let's go over how the scoring works. Like I mentioned before, the Cliff Dweller Ruins need to be scored first. Once they've been resolved, then you can do the other ones at the same time. Now, let's go look at our sheet. So this ruins section is made up of 8 different buildings of hexes. When it's your turn, you cross off a number of hexes equal to the total value of your disc. So for the green player, that was 7 points, or 7. So whenever you cross off all the hexes in a building, you get a reward. So let's say, for example, I did this. I went, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If I was the first player to do that, I get this top reward here, which is 8 points and an owl bonus, which I'll get into later. If you do it, once somebody does it first, everyone else has to cross off the top, and they can only earn the bottom reward. You could also, if you want them, distribute them across different buildings. Like I could do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, fill this up, and then do like 2 over here. If I had landed on a lizard multiplier, I would get double the hexes for this section. Whenever you unlock a bonus like this, you immediately unlock it. We'll go into what all the different bonuses are later. Now let's look at the canyon. So in the canyon, let's say I was the yellow player and I had a 4 and a 5 in that section. Actually, I also have the multiplier for the fox. So let's do that one first. In the canyon, each time you record a disc, you draw a shape in that section. And it must match either that number or any lower number. So let's say for 5, it could be this shape here, or I could do any of the lower ones. Whatever shape you draw has to be adjacent to a previously drawn shape, starting with this box here. So I could be like, okay, I'm gonna draw the 5 shape for my 5 disc. I'm gonna go something like that. If I wanted, I could have drawn a lower number instead. So if I have to draw a 4 disc, I could go, okay, I'm gonna do this shape. Like that. You can flip them, you can rotate them, and so on. The only thing is you can't overlap them, and they have to be adjacent to previous shapes. And so if I had the fox multiplier here, that means I get to draw that one of these 1 shapes twice. So I could be like, all right, I'm gonna do this one, and I'm gonna do this one. Whenever you draw a shape around a cactus icon, you cross it off in this column here. So I drew this one, I circled that one. Whenever you draw a shape around a bonus, you get it immediately. So in this case, this is a re-flick bonus. So I mark it off here to show that I have it. You also start the game with one of a re-flick and a swap bonus, which I mentioned you can use to re-flick your disc or swap 2 discs. And yeah, that's this one. Pretty simple. The scoring for how this works is at the end. However many of each cacti you cross off, let's say I crossed off this many of the brown cacti, that'll be worth 25 points at the end. If I crossed off 4 of these dark green ones, that'd be 14 points at the end. Now let's look at the creek bed. Each time you record a disc in the creek bed, so let's take a look. Let's say I'm the blue player and I have this one, a 4. Each new path I draw must start on a space that you've previously visited, starting with the pre-drawn X at the top of this section. The number on the disc is the length you draw in number of spaces, and each circular space counts as a distance of 1. So if I had a 4, I could go, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. You circle the last one, and whatever you circle is what you score or earn. In this case, it's a swap bonus. Any future paths just have to be adjacent to ones you've already done. So I could start going this way in the future. I could start going this way, do like a 2, 1, 2, and so on. Owl multipliers, if you get those, let you draw 2 paths of the same length. Now let's look at mud cracks right here. The mud cracks are made up of a network of connected nodes. Between the nodes are areas with bonus icons and cacti. So for that, you add up the total value of your discs in that section. Let's pretend I had 2 blue here, 7, and then mark off any number of nodes which total value equals or less than that value. Each node you mark must be connected to at least one other node you already marked, starting with the pre-drawn X in the middle. So I could do, okay, 3, 5, 7, like that. Each time you mark a node, you draw a line to each connected node you've already marked. So like this, and like this. Now, if you'll notice, some of these areas are surrounded. Those will score or earn you bonuses. In this case, at the end of the game, each one of those is worth 2 points. If you do surround a bonus, you get the bonus immediately. What you can also do is, if you want, you can apply leftover value to the bonus columns at the bottom. So let's say I had 8. Or 10. Let's say I had 10. And I marked a 5 and a 4 here. Now, that means I have 1 left. I can use that 1 to check off a box. Once that column fills up, I unlock that bonus underneath. Once everyone's finished writing and scoring, you take the board, you rotate it 90 degrees, past the first player, and you flick your discs again. And you do this until you keep flicking and then writing until you do the number of rounds you've decided. Then, after that, you score everything on your boards, which is pretty straightforward. This one, you just look at all the buildings all the numbers you circled on the buildings. This one, you look at your cacti columns. This one, you count up all the ones you've circled. And in this one, you count up everything you've surrounded. You add up everything here and get your total. And finally, let's go over the bonuses. So I already went over read, flick, and swap bonuses. Those are things you can use to do those things. And I went over the fox bonus, I think. No, I didn't. So the fox bonus, whenever you collect a fox with a 4 on it, that means you can draw a 4 or lower shape in that board. An owl bonus, which has a pound sign on it or a number sign on it. You can make a new path of any length, 1 to 5, in the creek bed. That's what this bonus is. So that's an example of an owl bonus. So if I surrounded that with a shape, I get that bonus. The rabbit bonus, like if I circle this rabbit here, is 5. That means you just get 5 towards nodes. Now, the star symbol, or star or sun symbol, the discovery bonus, that lets you choose an animal bonus and save it for later if you want. Whenever you earn a discovery bonus, you pick one of those bonuses I mentioned. They're slightly different here, like the rabbit is 6 and so on, and you circle it. And then later, you can choose to use them by crossing them off. Otherwise, that's it. You flick those discs, you try to get them in the right spots you want on multipliers and such, and then you use those discs to do 4 different writing scoring games on your board. And that's the game. So the flick and write is a creative twist on the genre. First off, I think presentation-wise, the board looks really nice. I do think it can be a little confusing at times to remember which area of the board is which section on your sheet. I feel like we could have had some clearer iconography maybe on the corners of the board instead of just in that tiny circle in the middle, or having to look at the backgrounds because they're all kind of similar. The actual little mini games you're playing are fun, and like most roll and writes or flip and writes, you know, that fun unlocking bonuses mechanic of, okay, oh, I circled this bonus and now I can use it in this one. Oh, that means I circled this one and I can do this here. You can do that sort of chaining. That's always fun. The only thing I'm not entirely convinced by is actually the flicking part. There are a few bonus circles on the board, but otherwise there's not actually that much going on. The fun of a flicking game is screwing over your opponent by knocking them off something or, you know, getting exactly what you want. But I feel like in this, since the 4 areas are so big, it didn't feel like it mattered that much. Maybe like a little more variety in the bonuses, or maybe even punishments, or I don't know. Something might have helped spice it up. It felt just pretty basic to me. Overall, though, as a flick and write game, the writing part, the scoring, is still fun and engaging. I think it's a good game, and I appreciate that it tried something new with the genre, even though I don't think the flicking was like that great. But it was cute.